Alright everybody, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're all having a beautiful day. And today's video is going to be the best heroes to pick when you have no friends to play with. And I'm going to try to keep it short and sweet for those players that want to just know the gist of each strength and weakness of a hero. So whether you're new, old, or just coming back from the game after the CCU update, hope this guide helps you in some way. And also one important note, this tier list is not for the competitive setting because there's only 20 people playing competitive, and competitive is a joke and for honor. This is strictly a tier list for the best heroes to pick when you're by yourself or just in a team setting. You're just trying to figure out the best hero to complement with your teammates, or just try to survive and keep a positive KD ratio. So keep in mind, these are my opinions and everyone does have one, so let me know your thoughts down below because all of our experiences can differ tremendously. And with that out of the way, let's just get down and dirty and let's get started. And so we're taking a look at Kensei, and this hero pretty much has it all to deal with almost every situation. With the CCU update, his lights have become much harder to react to, and it makes him kind of a good light spammer now. And when we're talking about his lights, it's good because it has tons of range to protect your teammates and to do external damage to your opponents. And he's also got an amazing dodge attack that pretty much traverses through time and space. Like, you can't tell if the Kensei is gonna target swap to you or target swap to your opponent because he just flies around the map. With amazing external damage, he's able to be the top contender for dealing out chip damage and damage in general to those players that try to parry external attacks, which will lead you into eventually winning the fight. And with his wide-reaching lights and heavy attacks, his zone is also the same. He can hold his zone in mid lane, just clear out minions. He's insanely powerful in that aspect with good damage numbers and insanely good reach. And that's why I'm probably going to put him in S tier, because he's also a really easy hero to pick up and do very well in a 4v4 setting. He does have solid feats as well, fast recovery or body count, and his second feat, Smoke Bomb, is probably the one of the more powerful tools that should always have equipped. Second Wind is also nice, and fourth tiers, Unblockable Everything, Stalwart Banner, and Aerostorm are fairly decent as well. And now we're moving on to the next best hero, and I think BP takes the contender for one of the best heroes, and everyone in S tier, it's not in a particular order, but I'd say BP is probably one of the easiest heroes to play because he has pretty much a mix-up in every single attack he does. He's got the strongest full block in the game. Now, Bulwark Counter, this move is pretty much the strongest tool in the game, I'd say. Especially when we're talking about a casual setting and 4v4, everyone was just throwing out attacks, and even players that know what they're doing at a higher level, like Bulwark Counter is still an insanely strong tool to use against high level players. And so this alone makes BP one of the strongest heroes. He's amazing in a 1v1 setting with a light into bash or light into undodgeable. This mix-up is insanely strong, especially with the CCU update. He can just bash spam you all day. He has the safest recoveries. He has a neutral unblockable, which is insane OS pressure for externals and dealing tons of damage. And I mean, there's not much to say about BP. He's a very easy hero to pick up. Great light attacks with amazing range and crushing counter properties. His heavy attacks he can just cancel into a bulwark or just cancel all of his recoveries into a full block stance to block incoming damage. And I would say if you want to pretty much destroy everybody, just pick up BP because he's probably the strongest with the lowest skill floor in the entire roster. And when we're talking about his feats, man, his feats are insanely annoying and tedious to fight against. His first feat gives shields to allies while reducing his health by a smidget. His second feat heals himself, and his third feat, Oathbreaker, is borderline overpowered and doesn't belong in the game because it takes away someone's revenge shields, and you can use it preemptively when someone's about to get revenge and just kill him instantly. So he pretty much negates any kind of anti-ganking whatsoever. Tough as Nails is also pretty good. And his fourth feat, also an insanely overpowered move as well, Umbral Shelter. Morale Booster is also pretty good, but Umbral Shelter lets you have shields for what lasts pretty much a lifetime, and you're not going to be able to kill anyone within those periods of time. So overall, VP, one of the best heroes to pick up if you want to pretty much destroy and hold your own, aka playing this game on easy mode. Moving on to another strong hero, everyone's favorite Wulin, everyone's favorite dancing ballerina, Jang Jun. This hero, he also has a lot of tools to utilize when it comes to team fights and 1v1 scenarios. He's got a great unblockable zone attack after a parry. His light attacks are fast now. Unblockable damage for OS pressure. A Shin attack for OS pressure as well. He's got great external pressure when it comes to his zone attack and flying unblockables, chain unblockables, which are insanely hard to react to now, especially with the CCU update. He's got Sifu stance, which has an amazing iframe capabilities. He also has iframes on his dodges as well, with the mix-up of a light or heavy attack. And then one of his most broken tools is his choke now, which does drain your stamina pretty much halfway. And if you run out of stamina during any part of his choke, you pretty much fall to the ground, so he can do his max punish up. I think it's around like 50 something damage, so it's probably one of the strongest tools in the game as well. So he's a very strong pick if you want to annihilate your opponents and also stall for time. His feats are also pretty solid. I think the most noteworthy one is his fourth, which is Fire Flash, and that's pretty much a game changer feat. Overall, Jang Jun is a great hero to pick up. He's a little bit harder to learn with a good skill curve, but he does have amazing impact when it comes to the 4v4 setting. And what do we have here? We have War Mommy, and this hero pretty much has an insanely good 50-50. She has undodgeable forward heavies. Her lights and heavies and zone attacks have insanely good hitbox. It travels pretty much all the way around her, like Kensei. Great for chip damage, great for external attacks. The only thing she lacks is unblockable from her chain, but she does have an unblockable dodge attack. Doesn't have that much iframes, but it still causes insane OOS pressure when it comes to externals or a 1v1 setting. And I think this hero overall is a very simple design, but very effective. The strongest points about this hero basically are going to be her feats, which cast pretty much a bunch of corruption to your opponents, and you can heal off that, you can deal damage off it, and especially in a casual setting, in a 4v4 setting, everyone's going to be throwing attacks and fighting each other, and these feats are going to deal tons of damage and force your opponents to either roll away for easy damage, and also used in a ganking setting. A lot of people said this was used for anti-ganking, correct, but it's also used for ganking purposes as well, because your other teammate will not be able to do anything unless you both want to die. And so this hero has very powerful feats. I would say it doesn't even belong in the game, to be honest. But it is what it is. What can you do? It's Ubisoft. And so overall, this hero has great feats, great standard damage as well. Unblockables. Great hero to pick up if you have the cash for it. And now, as you can see, we got the big fat man. I'm putting up an A tier because this guy, he's got hyper armor lights, which pretty much trade through everything. And now that light attacks and heavies and unblockables are much harder to react to, he's insanely powerful in that way. He's got a good 50-50 mix-up. And I also want to say that a lot of people in general don't know about external attacks and rolling away, and most people don't roll away in general, so that's why Shigoki is actually a really good pick in a 4v4 setting. Even at a high level, Shigoki still carries pretty hard in all the games that I've seen. Sometimes they'll do bad, but most of the time they're really good for external attacks, creating pressure, doing ganks, which is very strong. Anti-gankings, not so much, but ganking purposes, yes sirree. But 50-50 hugs, gives HP, unblockables, high damage values, hyper armor lights. His feats are insanely good as well. He can't stumble on his tier 2. His bow is fast as balls. Like, what the fudge? How can this big man pull a bow so fast? And his 4 tiers are insanely powerful as well, with Arrow Storm or choosing the one that makes you flop on your belly. So if you want easy games, pick Shigoki, because people are just gonna get light spammed to death by him, and heavy spammed as well, because he's got variable timed heavies, which make him a very strong candidate for dealing chip damage and damage overall. And now we're jumping on to Janhu. Now this hero, when it first released, he wasn't that strong. On PC, he was probably one of the more weaker heroes, and with the CCU update, this has made him quite a scary hero to fight against. And now on console too, he's very powerful. His dodge attacks are pretty much a mix-up. You have to pretty much make a huge read on trying to parry or just freaking rolling or something like that, but unblockable mix-ups right out after a light attack or a chain heavy finisher. Very strong to negate because he has tons of external range when it comes to his left heavy attack, so always use that one. Fast forward jumping heavy. He's also got an amazing undodgeable zone attack for external pressure, and his OS pressure overall is just really strong. He's just an unblockable master mix-up, because this is very scary to react to, especially since the CCU update. So Janhu mains, like, they're going to be very happy playing in 4s and 1v1s as well, because he's very strong and scary. Like, I can barely react to his light attacks now. Before, I could just parry them every single time he dodge attack. It'd be insanely easy. I would say probably 9% of the time, but now I can barely react to it, so he's a very strong pick. His feats are okay. I would say the only good redeeming feat that he has is his 4th, which deals tons of aerial damage, but other than that, he's already a good candidate for team fights and creating ganks and anti-ganks as well, because unblockable mix-up is a very powerful tool. Mr. Roman King himself, the Roman Revolution. Let's go. Centurion, obviously with the rework, amazing hero. He became a 50-50 machine god. And I mean, there's not much to say. Any hero with 50-50 automatically puts him up the tier list. And his lights are fast now. His heavies are still variable timed. He's got unblockable mix-up for OS pressure. Neutral kick, which can is also 50-50 as well. And he's also got pretty good feats dealing out damage. And Pugio, still a very overpowered tool. And also his fourth feats are not too shabby either, with Stalwart Banner or having some Phalanx shields. Not much to say about this hero, but Centurion obviously, style 10 out of 10, and overall a strong hero when it comes to holding your own or doing some ganks. Now Raider, obviously he doesn't have his stunning tap anymore, which is pretty sad. It made him a very strong character, but he still is a good mid clear and a great hero for setting up ganks with his Stampede charge. You're pretty much almost dead after he does that to you, and he's got very high damage values and a great storming tap with good soft feints and good external pressure as well when it comes to throwing out raw side heavies and an enhanced zone, which will dish out tons of damage. And so if you know how to use this character, you will do very well with him. In team setting, he can hold his own. He's got very good feats, a trap, stamina recovery, or body count. He's got healing feats as well. And of course, Fire Flask, which makes it a very strong team buster feat. And of course, overall, Raider's still a very strong pick with his hyper armor heavies, his fast light attacks now, and his enhanced zones. And what do we have here? We have Mama Nut Blast. Now this hero, she's a pretty strong pick, especially since she has enhanced lights that go into her unblockable mix-up. Her punch into bash or just heavies into bashes are very strong tools for making you go out of stamina in a 4v4 setting. Everybody's always going to be throwing attacks, and that means you have an easier time on making people go out of stamina, and this just complements if you have good perks with her and you have good feats which help you stall and make you like a tank. You're pretty much going to be very hard to kill and unkillable to an extent, because her hammer slams gives you shield back. Her first feat lets you heal after every punch. Her unblockable heavies do tons of freaking damage now. They can also wall splat for another heavy attack. And if there's another enemy nearby after you've fallen after the punch and you get nut slammed attack, you're pretty much dead because the enemy team is probably going to heavy you as well. So that's fun. No damage reduction whatsoever. Overall, I would say Jormungandr is still a very strong hero. She's got good feats that help her live forever and a great staller in general. Now I'm going to put Conqueror up in A tier just because his mid lane farm is insanely good. He's pretty much a very safe hero with his zones and his full blocks. You just hold that in a team fight, and if someone externals you, you pretty much get free damage because it's going to hit and it's going to activate the full block. The zone is also an amazing tool for just negating all damage whatsoever, and if you're holding a point, it's pretty much going to be the most tedious fight your opponent will ever fight if you know how to play Conqueror well, because his shield bash is insanely powerful, pretty fast light attacks now as well, and you can pretty much stall for time until your teammates come and help you, or just hold your own and heal on block, because his feats are fairly solid as well when it comes to surviving by himself. I'd say he's a harder hero to use compared to the rest of the A tiers or the S tiers, but if you know how to utilize him, he's still an incredibly frustrating hero to fight against in a team setting. And with that being said, go and pick him if you want to make your opponents pull their hairs out. And I know you guys are probably going to be confused with Lawbringer being A tier, but the reality of the situation is that even if they nerfed his Impale to 1 damage, he's still able to perform the insanely powerful gank, which allows him to impale you to the wall, flip you over, and after you're flipped, you're pretty much almost dead with 2 heavies to the face. His shove is still pretty good against 50-50s. Of course, it doesn't have hyper arm anymore, but it's good for negating 50-50s, and it's still good for negating light spam, because apparently you can just dodge light attacks, because that's the read now. So once you dodge into your shove, you can go into your insanely fast chain pressure, and that's pretty much Lawbringer's greatest strength, is his chain pressure. Unblockables are hard to react to. Oh, and keep in mind, he's also a really good mid clear as well. His zone is pretty much has no recoveries, so that's a strong aspect about him. And overall, he's still a very strong pick if you can stand playing this boring piece of trash, because I wish they made him more unique and gave him a light chain or something like that, but what can I say? Bombbringer has always been his strongest suit and ending team fights, and that's why he's still a strong pick. If you want to suffer with Lawbringer and just throw bombs and do parry punishes, then that guy's your man. Now moving on to Tiandi, I would say he's an insanely good solo pick because his iframes on his Dragon Dash just pretty much negate all the 50-50s in the world and any attack in general, so you can survive for long periods of time. He also has a neutral bash, good for opening up people or OOS pressure, and I think the strongest feature about Tiandi's kit is his feats and being able to survive for long periods of time, because once you equip the third feat, you pretty much gain health back and get a shield when you reach a certain point in your health, and that makes you very hard to kill. He has ways to deal damage and ways to avoid damage, so it makes him a very strong pick for creating a positive KD ratio, and that's what it's all about, isn't it? That's what it's all about. So Tiani's good pick if you like the Wulin. And now moving on to Hitakiri. Now this hero, obviously a pretty strong hero. She still has variable timed heavies, which make it hard to parry. Unblockable neutral heavies, which will pretty much force a reaction out of your opponent, especially when it comes to a team fight setting. She also has an amazing option select with insane range, which is very helpful for team fight settings. A very powerful 50-50 with her kick mix-up. Good feats as well, with her first feat being able to execute without getting interrupted. Heal and block is very powerful too, especially if you just want to external someone who's dealing tons of damage to you. Granted, you can parry them, but if set up correctly, you're pretty much going to kill them anyways. And we're taking a look at Warlord here. I'm going to put him in B tier. Before the CCU update, all the damage values were adjusted. He was pretty much like A or S tier in 4v4 setting, but now that his damage has been reduced, he's kind of fallen back into a more niche category. He's still a very strong hero when it comes to like 1v1 duel potential, but his ability to finish off opponents is not as fast as the rest of the cast, especially in a team fight setting. His own attack is still undodgeable, yes, but it deals very low damage. His external pressure is very non-existent. He does have a good headbutt, which deals a good OOS pressure. However, it does feed a lot of revenge, and you're pretty much going to have to be careful on who you decide to do with the headbutt. And of course, Warlord still has an amazing potential of ledging, and it makes him a very strong pick for that reason alone. Warlord's still a pretty good hero though, because he has good feats. He's pretty tanky, and we can't forget about his full block. It's a very solid full block with good recoveries and good mixed-up potential as well. Unfortunately, the damage output is pretty low. His 4th tier is Firefly, so that makes him a very strong candidate for team finishers, and overall, still a strong hero. And moving on to Shaman here, I think she's still a very scary candidate for holding your own, but unfortunately, you kind of need a decent team to make her worth your pick, because her bite is very strong, but a lot of people do interrupt you if you decide to bleed him, and the only way you can bleed him is in a 1v1 potential, because if someone else is just like externally you, you're not going to be able to get the bleed off. Usually in a coordinated team, somebody will guard break and you go for the bleed, and then they can hit stun, and then you can do a bite. But right now in this scenario, she wouldn't be the best, but her damage output is still pretty high when it comes to her bite, and it leads to finishing off an opponent very easily if they allow you to, because you know what happens in 4v4 settings. Everyone's just attacking needlessly and interrupting people all the time, but she's still a very strong pick when it comes to her bash, and she's probably one of the best heroes to chase an opponent that is low in health, and that's why I put her up so high in the tier list, because she can chase down any running Orochi. Now we're taking a look at Berserker here. Now with the CCU update, man, his lights are pretty hard to react to now. He's always been a decent candidate for a 4v4 setting and solo carry potential if you were good enough with him, because his externals are pretty good. He's got unblockable mix-ups. Overall, a strong candidate when it comes to holding your own in a ganking situation or anti-ganking situation. You know, he's been a very strong hero for a while. Just not one of the best heroes, because he doesn't have any 50-50s that he can spam or neutral bashes either. He just has to rely on pure skill alone. But his feats allow him to carry games with Fireflies as his 4th, and he can throw an axe for his 3rd feat. 2nd feat gains revenge. 1st feat bounty hunter. You know, you can hold his own if you know how to handle him correctly. And with that being said, I think I'm going to put him on B tier just because of his very high skill curve and ability to carry games, if you can pull it off. Now moving on to Nuxia. Now this hero, she has always been a light spammer, and even with the CCU update, her light spam is insanely fast now. Her traps are also very good for team fights and ganking oriented purposes, and I believe the strongest points about this hero are her feats. Her caltrops will clear minions insanely quickly, and they also refresh as well, so you can use them again in the next fight or in the next minion lane, and that makes her an extremely strong mid lane clear. Her external pressure isn't that amazing. She does have traps, but having an unblockable that can deal external pressure, I think it's much more valuable than just spamming traps, because they do feed quite a bit of revenge. The 4th feat is pretty good as well, especially when it comes to team fight settings. It will deal tons of damage to your opponents if they're stacked together. Nuxia is probably not the best hero to pick, but she does have some redeeming qualities about her. I'm going to put a Highlander up in B tier just because his light spam has gotten a lot more effective. He's able to trade with his finisher heavies. His side heavies also have immense range for external damage, and his offensive stance allows him to pretty much give unblockable indicators 24/7 to any opponent, and unblockable heavies can also work as external damage as well, because they do have quite a bit of range and phantom range. So Highlander has been buffed significantly with this patch, although he doesn't feel like Highlander anymore. He feels like Orochi. He's still a strong hero when it comes to the solo carry. The only thing that doesn't work well for him is anti-ganking purposes, because a lot of people will just roll. However, he's still a very strong hero when it comes to dealing out damage. Now we're gonna take a look at Shallan. He's a little bit tricky because he's harder to use, but I will say that his feats are pretty dang good, because his first feat, Key Trap, allows you to place it at spawn and you can pretty much see where everyone is, and that itself, information, knowledge, is a powerful tool. Everybody remember that. Chi stance is pretty good for 1v1 potential with a kick, or using the sweep for team fight settings, or using the unblockable for OS pressure on externals only, and undodgeable for external attacks or a 1v1 setting. So overall, Shallan is a good pick if you have the right feats, such as Key Trap, Heal on Block, or the Chi Heal, where if you use the Chi attack, it heals them even if they block it, and the Teleport, which is great for helping out teammates. And taking a look at Valkyrie, man, I feel like Valkyrie has gotten a lot faster. Her lights are a lot harder to react to when it comes to other heroes. I think it's just because of the animation or something like that, but she is fast now. She has a faster bash now since the CCU update came out, so she's a lot more viable in that aspect. Her sweep is also pretty good now. She can target swap sweep. Her heavies have a wide range for good externals, and very good feats as well when it comes to Bloodlust, dealing tons of damage and having good defense. Javelin for 50 damage, I believe, and Fire Blast, which makes her a very strong candidate for finishing off team fights. So overall, Valkyrie is a strong pick if you love those thighs. Now Warden, he is the best 1v1 duelist in the game. However, when we talk about carry potential and holding your own in a team setting when it comes to ganking or anti-ganking, Warden doesn't really have that much good qualities. You know, he can chase people down if they decide to roll from his 50-50, but other than that, his damage output is about the same as everyone else's, and he just doesn't have that much good external pressure or unblockable pressure in general compared to the rest of the cast. When you look at A tiers to S tiers, you know, he doesn't have that much to contribute to team fights and holding his own. His feats are decent, but they're not that good compared to the rest of the cast, so that's why he's in a low tier. And oh boy, everybody's just getting lower and lower. If you guys can see all the tier lists, everyone down there is going to be C tier to D tier. Orochi, obviously he doesn't have anything good going for him. The only thing he has going for him right now is his unblockable, which is pretty decent when it comes to damage and creating OS pressure. However, he doesn't have any good tools to help his teammates with his feats, and overall he's a weak candidate when it comes to carry potential and just holding his own, because Reflex Guard is a pain in the ass. He doesn't get any health back from anything except for Bounty Hunter if he does manage to kill someone, but other than that, he doesn't have much going for him when it comes to team play or even a 1v1 potential. Damage output's mediocre, and there's no external attacks besides the side of heavies, and they're not even that good either. But yeah, that's what can I say. Orochi is he's trash tier. Now Gladiator, he's a little bit tricky. He does have viable form of offense to an extent, but the only bad thing about this character is that he doesn't really contribute much to a team fight setting. Yes, he has his toe stab that will guarantee a heavy attack, but pretty much all of his moves feed revenge to an extent, and if he wants to confirm damage on his zone attack, his teammate is probably not going to get a heavy off, because the zone attack has such a wide range of hitting your opponent on the heavy finisher that it's just going to interrupt your teammate anyways. So when it comes to team fights, he doesn't offer much besides toe steps, and if you do that, you'll get punished anyways. And so with his low health and reflex guard, I don't think he's a good candidate for a 4v4 setting, especially in a chaotic 4v4. He's very weak in that aspect, and his deflex will get interrupted very easily if you decide to go for one, so it's probably not worth it. And right now, I just say he's a very hard hero to use and just get a lot of value from compared to the rest of the cast, and so that's why I'm going to put him in C tier. Now Nobushi, she used to be a really good hero, but after all the nerfs she's gotten continuously, I think she's just bottom tier now, especially when it comes to the 4v4 setting. You can't really carry with her. All you can really do is hold mid, and with the hidden stance nerf, you're not as safe anymore, so she doesn't really have that many good tools in holding her own when it comes to like the anti-ganking purposes. Her zone is good for externals, however it's insanely slow, and if someone else is paying attention, they can just parry that, because it's a very slow zone attack. But other than that, her damage values have been weakened. She's only really good paired with Shaman, and in a solo environment, there's probably not a Shaman there, and there's probably not a Shaman that's ready to bite them and know the ganking tutorial. So I'm going to put her in D tier because she's a good light spammer, but she doesn't have anything that would really help the team win games and help you carry an anti-gank as well, and even gank, you know. So that's why I'm put her in D tier, and hopefully she gets some buffs soon. My son! What did they do to my son? So Armisha, I think he's pretty much trash tier now. He can have fast deadly feints, but most people just external that anyways or just back dodge. But pretty much since he's underwater, he has no way to deal external damage, and he has nothing of value to give for team fights. And he's got decent feats like Never Stumble, Healing, Stalwart Banner, Arrow Storm, or Fear itself, but nothing to offer the team. Decent carry potential, but since his heavy is so slow, you're not going to have enough time to do enough DPS and to take out your opponents, and so you're just gonna get whittled down and pretty much lose the game for your team. Oh boy, Shinobi. Yeah, this hero, the only thing he really had going for him before the CCU update was his damage values, and since they took that away, he pretty much has nothing going for him anymore because he's not a safe hero anymore. He's a reflex guard. His lights don't do any damage. They have good range, good zone attack range as well, good option select, but is nothing to offer the team anymore besides feeding revenge and throwing out ranged heavies, which shouldn't even be in the game in the first place, and that's why he needs a huge rework. Trash hero because he's a very hard hero to play in the first place, high skill curve. However, he just doesn't give enough value for your team to even have any kind of carry potential whatsoever. And we move on to the bottom of the tiers, of course. Peacekeeper, she's absolutely trash. She doesn't have any unblockable pressure whatsoever, just like everyone else on D tier. And her lights are still like fast, but her damage values are insanely low. She's not able to execute anyone, which is pretty important in a 4v4 setting, so that they can get like 3 more seconds of timer, and so that they can't get respawned. And so overall, her feats are okay, I'd say. They're not like amazing or anything. She's got a crossbow that does decent damage. She can gain revenge, and she has Last Laugh, which is pretty hilarious to use, and also Fear itself. But overall, she doesn't have anything that helps her teammates, and that's why she is trash and needs a rework ASAP. And there you have it, folks. That is the end of the tier list. Let me know what you guys thought of it down below. I probably have some heroes that I want to switch afterwards, but I think this is the gist of it. Let me know what your thoughts down below. If your favorite hero is in the correct position, if you think he's higher, if you think he's lower, let me know down below, and what kind of reworks they should receive to even get them up the tier list, you know, like more unblockables, more 50/50s, or new mechanics, or new full blocks, something like that. Let me know your thoughts down below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, because 70% of you guys are not subscribed right now. And with that being said, enjoy the night, everybody. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.